Good afternoon, everyone. We want to welcome you this fall. International Market Centers and Design on High Point welcomes you to our fall programming for High Point Market. We actually have markets starting tomorrow on site, and we look forward to seeing everyone who can join us on site and to see the new products and exhibitors in their locations, and we just want to welcome everyone. Today, our webinar is Redefining Luxury, and it is in partnership with Southern Home Magazine. Lynn Terry is our moderator for this discussion. It also is CEU approved, so if you need that credit, it will be emailed out to those who registered through Zoom. And we also welcome those who are viewing this remotely through Facebook or YouTube. At this time, Lynn, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, thank you, Kimberly. It's a pleasure to be here, and welcome everyone who's tuning in. We have a great panel of designers, and I'm really excited about getting their insight as to what luxury is to them and to their clients. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panel and our panelists, and then we're going to start into redefining luxury. So first off is Scott Meacham Wood. He is in New York and are based in New York now, formerly in San Francisco. And he has Scott Meacham Wood Home and Design Now. And then we have Vicki Serrani, and she is with Southern Studios in Cary, North Carolina. And then we have Courtney McLeod. She's out of New York, and the name of her firm is Right Meets Left. And then we have Erin Valenchek, that's right. I know I mispronounced it. Erin V.
All good. Exactly.
Erin V is easy to do. And yeah. Erin joins us from Beverly Hills. And then we have Bryn Olson, and Bryn is out of Chicago, Illinois, and her group is Bryn Olson Design Group. And Chad James is out of Nashville, and he's Chad James Design Group. So with that, the first question that I like to ask, because I do think it allows viewers to get a little insight into your personal design aesthetic, is if you had a motto, what would your motto be as it regards in regards to design? Scott, you want to start it off?
I don't know if this is our motto or not, but it is a very common saying around here, where we like to work from a place of abundance. I like I like options. I like buying a little bit too much so we can play with things when it happens. So Scott Meacham with Design, working from a place of abundance.
Okay, Vicki?
We actually have a hashtag, livably sophisticated. And so we actually want our spaces to be very livable for families and pets and friends and entertaining, but also with a sophisticated Southern flair. Perfect. Courtney?
Yes, well, our motto would have to be, it's always elegant, but with a wink and a smile. So I really, design is serious, but I don't like to take it too seriously. So there should always be a little bit of fun.
All right, Erin?
I would say generally we just define our style as modern classic, because we'll do everything from a traditional house with a modern flair or a very contemporary space with a kind of a warmer aesthetic. So modern classic.
Okay.
So I'm going to approach it from kind of a different angle. We actually do have a motto, and our tagline is, how you shape your space will shape your day, which sounds so elementary and so obvious, but we truly think that laying the foundation, the true getting down to the functional elements of any space, no matter if we're, going to be doing traditional or modern or transitional or whatnot, if a space truly functions beautifully, it's life transformational. So that is ours.
Chad?
So the first half of my career, I worked for other firms. And so when I opened Chad James Group 10 years ago this April, my tagline was a new beginning in design. And the reason for that was I felt like I had been down the road with all these other designers and had been doing it kind of their way. And for me, I wanted it to be a new beginning. But then our other one, kind of like Bren, we approached it from a little different. And like Courtney, if it's not fun, we're not doing it. That's,
Yes.
I've come to a place in my life, in my career, that, of course, every job has those moments that aren't very fun. But from the beginning, we know when we interview our clients, just like everyone here, we know what if this project is going to be fun or not. And so if it's not fun, I just don't want to do it. So.
We at Southern Home, we kind of have that same, we like to deal with nice interior designers.
Yes.
I try to reward nice, and because life is short.
It is. So
and we want to deal with pleasant people and that are excited about what they're doing and what they can bring to the table. So, so that segues perfect into what does luxury mean to you in this day and age? What are you seeing now? So I'm going to go in reverse order now. I'm going to go with Chad first.
So, luxury to me is kind of a misused word a lot. I think so many times we use luxury as this adjective. And really, for me, I'm reminded constantly that we all are in a service industry. We are put in this industry not only to create beautiful things and create these wonderful environments that memories are created from, but also we have to remember that luxury is a feeling. It's about, how a room invokes an emotion. So to me, luxury could be, I'm serious when I say this, luxury could be a room that has been, on the strictest of budgets. It's as long as the family or the person that you're designing for walks in and they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, Bren.
Okay, so spinning off the motto discussion and perfectly from what Chad said, that's like why we love what we do, is that moment when you actually feel that transformation, and that is luxury, that feeling, what Chad was saying. How you shape your space shapes your day. If you have a room that has not been super functional and it's always messy because there's not homes for things and whatnot, and all of a sudden you provide the perfect type of furniture for a client to be able to hide away the kids' toys and entertain in that room, and teach the kids at the same time how to put away their toys because there is a home for it. That's luxury, because you're now providing stability and a clean, warm home, and it's that feeling is luxury. And then I can never deny that we define luxury like cozy comfort is what our clients really, they yearn for, especially now more than ever. So there's always going to be that luxury of having a home truly work for the client, like that's luxury. And then on the other side of the coin, like give me those cozy textiles all day, every day in a room, like that's luxury for us too. So it really is a personal definition, I think, for each client.
Erin, you want to follow up with that?
Yeah, for us, we do a tremendous amount of custom furnishings, things that really fit the space, and also a lot of interior, architecture and remodeling. And I think that's when your house feels truly luxurious, is regardless of the size, but that everything just fits really well. It's incredibly well tailored, from the drapery to the rods to the sofas and the rugs, is that everything actually fits the way it's supposed to. And I find that that's when it feels, the most complete and layered. And so for us, it's really about that tailoring so that the fit and finish, just like a good suit, is right.
Courtney?
Yeah, for me, I think that the ultimate luxury is really when your home, feels truly authentically you. It's when you have the time and the resources to curate things that make you feel really, really good, that make you walk in and feel, enveloped in a warm embrace something that just really reflects your spirit. I do think, you know, kind of like what Bryn was saying, that can change over time. You know, when we're working with, you know, a young family, the idea of luxury is very different than when we're working with, you know, say an empty nester couple. They're looking for something completely different. So I think it's important that, you know, you're really listening to your client, and really sussing out what is their idea of luxury ultimately, because I think that that's what's most important.
Vicki?
Courtney, I loved your words. It is a warm embrace. And I do think that luxury right now to our clients really means a haven. Our clients are spending more time than ever at home right now. And the quality of what they have in their homes, I find, is becoming very important, but they're also using their homes in a very different way. So I think luxury is actually changing with the time we are right now. I mean, we have kids at home, we have clients working at home, we have multiple people, we have kids home from college. And so the way, it's almost less is more. And really the elements that you do place in your house, in your home, have them quality with the luxurious textiles and really something that speaks to you to create your own personal haven.
Scott, what's your take on luxury?
It's very ephemeral. I mean, it is to all of us, but I think we all know that moment when you've been working a project for 2 months or 2 years or 2 weeks or whatever it's been, and all of a sudden you walk into the project to drop off, you know, the last decorative pillow or the last plant or whatever, and it ceases being a work location and it turns into a home. Mm-hmm. And there's that little burst of magic. It's like a little poof of glitter some days. But I think that's where the luxury begins, when it feels like it's inhabited and it is going to likely alter someone's life, not to be all hoity-toity about it, but at the end of the day, we make people's lives better. And that's an okay way to spend your week, making people's lives better.
Well, I agree that with this cast of designers, I mean, I think there's a fair amount of pixie dust, that is glittered onto clients' homes, because that is what a client hires you to do, that thing that eludes them often, that can bring it all together in a way that is meaningful and beautiful for that homeowner. So given we are in crazy times, has the client's expectations or their wishes, have they changed since, since before COVID? Are you finding that what the expectations or what the requests are different now than they were, say, a year ago? And I'm just going to let y'all, I feel like when I'm calling on everybody, it gets real forced. So I'm going to let you go ahead and just jump right in there.
Well, I mean, honestly, guys, like, have you ever specified so many desks in your life as you have in the last 6 months? There's a desk in every room and everything, and every project we work on. Like, we're just building these places for people to be able to work from home.
Yes, and I think that also goes to needing doors to close so that people can be on calls and have privacy, because this open floor plan that's been, prominent for years is really not functional when you actually want to, like, get work done or focus, or the kids need to study and you need to be on a call and someone else does too. So we're seeing a kind of return to more of a traditional architecture space where it's like still open, but there's doors, either pockets or something. And also lead times, just they want stuff right now. Nobody wants to wait for anything.
Instant. Everyone wants it like yesterday. We have, like I said earlier, if it's not fun, we're not doing it. We've been really successful in interviewing our clients and partnering with people that we love to work with. But I'll tell you, we have some moments during this time where people just don't understand why it can't be here yesterday. And, there's been a lot of educating and a lot of schooling with our clients to sit down and say, hey, listen, I know you want this quickly, but this is the reality. Our world is in a pandemic and things have shut down and now they've started back. But, it's all, even from FedEx and UPS and common carriers, I mean, things seem to take longer. Unfortunately, we have had to have a handful of those conversations, and they're never fun, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know about y'all, but we have had this all of a sudden, yes, same thing. We've actually had some nightmare construction halting and a client still living in its story and had to get them out and find them a rental, all sorts of things. But we have found, we've had return clients come to us and like kind of understand and want to spend more. So clearly people are not traveling, of course, and maybe spending on other luxury things like travel and experiences. But it's even some of our clients that maybe have had smaller budgets before have come back to us and they say, all right, we've got a bigger budget this time and we want luxury. We want to invest in certain things. And we have been like, what? This whole summer has been like such an amazing funny turn of events. But we've had people that are like, okay, we want to invest, and we know that you get what you pay for in this industry. Like if you invest in it, it will withstand, and go for things that they would have shied away from before because of budget. So I think that's been really, really surprising for us.
I couldn't
say
agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we're finding the exact same with our clients, and we've also had a few clients from, years ago come back and have a bigger, budgeted investment in either new projects or, just sort of upgrading what they have. But I think also we found people, there's a desire to be a bit more adventurous and fanciful. People want to have a little bit of fun in their space. They're realizing, all of these safe choices, they don't necessarily feel really good at the end of the day. And so we're actually doing some of the most fun, from a design perspective, projects that, we've ever done. And, with all of our crazy ideas, clients are much more receptive to them, which has been really nice.
Courtney, I have a quick question. What is the fun? Like, is it like new types of furniture like that are fun, or is it patterns, textiles? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's kind of across the board. For instance, we're working on a renovation of a high-rise apartment on the Brooklyn waterfront, and so it's one of those typical, glass box type buildings where you've got that column that's kind of right inside the corner where the windows meet. And, so it's always like, what do you do with that column? And so we had this idea to take this kind of candy colored acrylic pieces and do this kind of like art installation with it. And it's absolutely bananas. And, it's one of those things where they're either going to love it or think we're absolutely nuts. And, they were like, this is the coolest thing. I've never seen this. Let's do it. I can't wait. And so I think that, it's things like that where, again, it's kind of fantastical. It's kind of just adventurous that people are realizing they want to be around that when they're home. And so, yeah, so I'm, they're letting me, push the envelope and I'm pushing it as far as I can.
The most fun that we've been having, actually, we're in North Carolina, and the most fun that we've been having is how many clients who have purchased second homes this year.
Oh my God.
Right now,
So
our
sweet.
beach homes, our mountain homes, our lake homes, the markets are on fire. And people aren't with not traveling, and everybody, it seems like everybody is out of town working from their second home right now. And, if you are fortunate enough to be able to do that, I mean, what an amazing opportunity that we've never had before. And so we are having a blast with second homes.
And we're also, we have a couple of clients who are, sort of talking into that trend that you're hearing about, people moving out of the city and into larger homes and bigger spaces. And so, really just kind of saying, we just want to start from scratch. We don't want to bring anything. And so I think that's been an interesting trend and something I think we'll probably see heading into next year as well.
So one of the things that I saw in the images that were submitted and looking on your website is the group as a whole, or your clients as a whole, do tend to like color. And I see such a resurgence in color coming. are returning, and is that accurate, or is that just happens to be the images that you submitted, or and how does that play into, you know, at one point we do go through trends. You know, I'm probably the oldest person on this discussion, but you know, you went through the 80s where everything was gold, and then you go through different, and you know, we've gone through that. Everything had to be neutral. And I just see what I'm seeing now is much more really an embrace of color. And I wanted to know if is that something you're actually seeing, or is that just my view of world?
No, I'll jump in here real quick. You know, I've historically, my career has been known by being pretty neutral with pops of color with art. But this past year, I took the plunge. I made the decision that I was going to really introduce vibrant color into my work. And thankfully, I have the clientele that's allowing me to do that. I think that, like you said, design is cyclical. It's a big cycle. You know, I lived through the 80s with the hunter green and the burgundy and the navy blue, and those are still some of my favorite colors, honestly. But at the same time, right now, I feel like in my world, we're seeing deeper, darker, richer, more comfortable colors in our palettes and in our schemes right now than we ever had. Everyone wants a little more vibrance. We've had this moment of everything being blown out, from the photography to the white walls to the White House to the white. And now we're in this moment where I feel like that we're wanting a little more depth and a little more, like Courtney's doing right now, a lot more fun. Why not?
So, I mean, and one of the things is like, is there one thing that you're seeing that really defines, you walk in and you go, wow, this just feels so luxurious, or elevated? Or maybe luxurious is not necessarily, I mean, for me, art. When I walk into someone's house and they have great art, it just feels so, I don't know, it's personal to them, and hopefully it's reflective of their style. But that's one thing I'm curious, you know, it's not, I don't think, you know, at one point, gosh, if you had a grand piano, that was like really luxury. But I don't think that's the case anymore. So I'd like to hear from you. And also, Kimberly, I know you're controlling the screen in the background. I think we need to go back to where we can see everybody's face. Perfect.
I think art is certainly a luxurious touch, and for me, it's always about the bigger the better. You know, I'd rather you have fewer things and more impactful things for scale. And I think particularly when it comes to a fantastic piece, even if it's not expensive, you know, blue chip art by any means, because most of our clients don't do that. We have some that do, but most don't. But the impact by scale, I think, is what creates that feeling of luxury as well. Because often you find it's easy to cheat and fill a wall with a bunch of little things that don't cost very much, but sometimes just even one big canvas like makes that statement and feels far more luxurious, I think.
Because I think you can take, I think to Erin's point, you can take something that's not necessarily expensive, but treat it as though it was expensive. And size is only an element. Size, color, impact, all of those things. You can take, it just kind of gives your swing a little bit more heft to it, not to mix a whole bunch of sporting metaphors that I don't understand. We'll do ice skating metaphors next. Those I can do.
You know, I think that there's a big misconception with art. Since you brought up art, art has always been a huge, huge influence from the very beginning of my career. I was very fortunate to have clients that had Damien Hirst, they had Sarah Morris, they had these museum level, just crazy collections of art. And so it started in my career very early on with being exposed to that. However, not every client, like you said, has that budget to do that. What I found is I try to encourage our clients to, as long as it's real, I don't care if it's cheap or if it's expensive or not, just make sure it's real. If you don't have the budget to go and do a big grand piece, that's totally fine. But listen, go to your local galleries. Go to your craft fairs, go to schools, go and find something that is real, because here's how that works. You find a real piece of art that's really good from a young, emerging artist, then guess what happens? And it's happened to me multiple times, that you hang on to that piece, it grows, it grows, it grows, it grows. One of the things that we do in our firm is we send out yearly profit statements to our clients where their pieces of art have raised through people's careers. But one of the things, I have one artist in particular, it's actually right over here, that I bought him 23 years ago. He's in the High Museum now. I mean, he's all over. And that piece that I paid $300 for is now worth a lot of money. And so I try to approach that with clients that, listen, let's invest a little bit. But sorry, to go back to your exact question, and I'm just going to take the gloves off here. Luxury to me is drapery. When I walk into a house that's just dripping with fabric, and it's a main fabric and it's an accent fabric and there's a trim and there's a this and there's a, and I don't always do that, but when I walk into a project that's just, I mean, dripping with drapery, I'm like, yeah, these folks, they spent some money. They spent the coins right here.
I have an anecdote on that. I was walking a new project with a client. This was probably a decade ago. And I'm like, just talk to me. Tell me about going to bed. Tell me about how you want to live in your house. And it was this older gentleman who I adore. He and his brother have been great clients of mine for years. But he talked about walking through the living room and unhooking the drapes to like whoosh closed as before he went to bed, because the house was kind of visible from the street. And I'm like, okay, so we need to like quadruple line this. Like I want it to be an audible experience for him of just these drapes just falling and meeting each other. It is time to go to bed. I love all of those rituals that we all do as we get ready to open and close our houses, and understanding that was so important to him that designed all the drapes. We did mohair drapes with 2 layers of lining and a reverse and a trim. Something like it. Oh God, they were like $1 billion. They were ridiculous. But they made noise when you shut them, which was the best part.
Yes, that was great.
I cannot agree more. Okay, drapery and lighting, I always say, is like an immediate transformation all the time. My staff knows I am a big fan of drapes, but in terms of, in terms of luxury, one of the things that we've been just really loving is these days is paying attention to the architectural details of a home. So if I come into a home and the client is game for maybe changing their 3-inch moldings to some beautiful understated like 6 or 7, and just redoing the moldings, base, crown, maybe even over your doors or windows, can just, you can't tell the difference until you do it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this is a huge difference. Why didn't we do it before? Like whenever I flip-flop between some site visits sometimes, and I go to a client that decided, we're going to keep the smaller moldings, and then I go into my other client that it just feels differently. It sounds so funny, and trim is really not that expensive, but the luxuriousness of it just, you can tell, but you don't know quite what it is that's so amazing about the space. So
detail
Yeah.
is luxury. Detail is when you walk into a space that you can tell that someone, like Scott was saying, paid attention, or we call it programming. We program with our clients all the time to figure out how they live. When you walk into a space where it's a hotel, a restaurant, a home, and you see that the details are there, you know that this owner understands luxury. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I think homeowners really need to show their personality. I think we as designers, our job is to really dig deep and understand who our clients are and what really makes them shine. And our job is to really bring out that personality in their home, whether it be through art, whether it be anything from, I mean, you know, art can take on so many different forms. We've done everything from doing shadow box frames of christening gowns to military uniforms. I mean, really getting into the personality of what's important to the clients themselves. And I think that's when we have the most fun, is to really getting to know them.
So true. Yeah, a spectacular wall finish gets me every single time, and I feel like, you know, more and more we're just you know, clients are like, yes, let's go over that unbelievable mural, or let's, you know, have an artist come in. I mean, it's just, yeah, that's my sweet spot. My soft spot is, you know, I think it also is a great way to show personality, you know, for the individual client, to Vicky's point as well. But, you know, everything from, you know, beautiful plaster work to spectacular wallpaper, wall finishes are it.
Yeah, we've been really into lacquer ceilings lately. So we did a new construction project in Greenwich and did this really subtle, very, very, very subtle wide step, and then white lacquered them, and they were just unbelievable. But it's that type of thing that the average person isn't going to realize how much work goes into that. But the look is just, it's $1 million.
Right.
Oh,
You have to have go ahead, Courtney.
I was just gonna say, I'm glad you said that, because I'm doing a white lacquered ceiling. I've never done a white lacquered ceiling, so I've been a little like, oh, I don't know about that. So yeah, I'm excited.
Fabulous.
So that is, you know, the difference between a flat ceiling and a white lacquered ceiling is, you know, lots and lots of steps.
About $3,000.
To a lot of money. So, you know, are you having to have conversations with your clients about, you know, it's not that a flat ceiling is not totally fine, but in terms of your design, open the design quotient, you know, if investing in a little bit more will give you that really nice impact that you're looking for. Are you having those, or people are kind of like, well, whatever you like to do, and kind of turning the reins over to you?
I think it always depends on the client. Most clients want to be involved in a lot of the decisions. We've certainly had some that just go, yeah, sure, but that's rare. Most are, you know, want to talk it through. And I think more from a standpoint, they just like to understand and be able to tell the story and feel more, you know, part of the process these days. But I mean, the ceiling, I always say it's like a third of the space. So if you ignore it, I mean, it's always going to feel a little bit unfinished.
And I think it's always, it's about getting the balance right. You know, everything doesn't need to be the spectacular statement. There has to be, you know, moments to rest and moments to excite the eye. And so also budget-wise, there are places to splurge and places to save. And so it really all depends on the goals and the scheme for that particular room. But I think I find myself, I'm personally, you know, more drawn to a sheen on a ceiling than I have been in the past. And so, you know, might I be steering clients more in that direction than in the past? Sure. But I think like everything, it ebbs and flows.
An analogy that we often use with clients as we're kind of talking through design aspects is, I always liken it to casting a play or casting a television show. You need a couple of stars, but then you need supporting actors. You need background players. Like, you don't, like, everybody can't be famous. It's exhausting, because then you can't see anything. So it's a good way of saying, like, this is Patti LuPone. This is Bernadette Peters. This is Kelly O'Hara. That's the lacquered ceiling. And then we can do some other things, you know, and bring in some new players, things, you know, new textile vendors, new artists, that, you know, that this is their debut. They're going to debut in your home. And I think people love that kind of ownership of being an active participant in someone's career that way.
Scott,
I also think the, go ahead.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think you do have to have those starring roles, and I love that analogy. But you also, when you're working with clients, you can't force feed it. I mean, we find that if you kind of offer them alternatives, and you kind of know the end result that you want to get, but how do you get to that end result? And so you kind of, when you lay it out for them and you say, well, you could have this, but then you like slowly introduce that splurge, that's how you end up, I don't want to say getting your way, but having them see it, see your vision.
I never show it first. Anything that's going to be kind of weird, I like to show them something that's not as amazing.
We call it the hairy hand.
Right, and then they're invested in it from the beginning.
Yes, absolutely. Always got to have that one that is the star, the one that's like, eh, and then that one that's just
Or
like,
we could do this, and you just unfurl the wallpaper down the like all the way down the dining table, and just wait for
the husband's in that appointment because he's going to get really overwhelmed and he's going to walk out and go, y'all just do whatever you want to do. That's what to do.
Yes. My version of that, whenever I have clients who want to go shopping with me at the design center,
Walk their legs off.
we go to a fabric showroom and they're done in 20 minutes.
Uh-huh.
You're just winging through fabrics at 90 miles an hour. They're like, can we go to lunch? I'm like, I'll come back and do this later without you. And I'll just bring you an edited version of this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think it's really important to talk to your, I mean, we have lots of budget discussions up front before we really touch design. And we always ask them, we'll go through the budget exercise, and because I say, this is my ability to kind of educate you guys about what things actually cost, based off of your preferences on where you want to spend your money. So we've got a client in San Francisco that will drop a hefty penny on a beautiful rug that is an antique because she wants to give it to her daughter. Whereas, like, let's say, our bachelor here in Chicago, actually, he went for a cashmere rug, but to pay for that, we went for a rug in his guest bedroom that was, offset it. But his preferences were, he was like, oh, I don't really necessarily want to spend money on rugs, but what about art? So everyone, and it always surprises me every time I have the conversation, what their preferences are. And when they say their preferences, I hone in on that and we go for it. Because if I know that's like basically the Cliff's Notes to what they'll spend their money on, right? And then you can start to see what those close cousins are, to see like how far the luxury investment goes and where you want to respectfully stop. But as long as they always know that we're on their team. But it's always interesting to see differences in different clients, what they define as luxury for them. So
very true.
At the end of the day, the money is the money. Like, you can't spend money that they don't give you. So I think, to Brent's point, like, you have to be very honest and very upfront. Like, how much do you want to spend on this? And we'll often do, instead of doing like a total budget, I'll do a per room budget or a per piece budget, so they can see, and all of that you like all adds up to this. Mm-hmm. And that's what that is. And we can play, I mean, at some point our job is to make sure that we're spending their money incredibly well.
Well, we have to be good stewards. I mean, from the very beginning, right. I think that you have to be a good steward of your client's budget. And every client, I don't care who your client is, if they've got billions or if they have, little. Every client has a budget. It drives me crazy when someone meets with us and they say, we don't have a budget. You just do whatever you want to do. That sounds like that's a golden client, but it's not. And the reason being is because every person has a threshold. Some people, it's, $1,000 for a sofa. Some people, it's $20,000 for a sofa. So we go through this exercise from the very beginning, just like that. Okay, well, what would you spend on a sofa? And that tells me with every single client that I have where their range is, where they see, because a sofa is something that we all have to have in multiple rooms. And so it tells me right off the bat with the Mrs. and the Mr. of where their mindset is of what their price point should be.
So as you're thinking about High Point, are there particular kinds of items that you're more honed in on for this market, or that you're excited to see?
Things that are available.
Exactly. In stock, ready
In
to ship.
stock.
Like in the truck outside with the engine going, like it'll be there. It'll get there before you get home.
I'm like taking a checkbook and saying, "Can I have this off the floor? Come on." No, I mean really,
Right, very true.
things that are accessible and available. And I don't want to, beat a dead horse here, but at the same time, I mean, we've been in multiple situations this year where we present to the client, they fall in love with it. We're told we can have it this time. We schedule, these dates to install, and then, 2 weeks before it gets back ordered, or, oh yeah, the container's not here, and it makes us look like buffoons because we have clients that are going, wait, I thought you said blah, 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 blah. Well, we did because that was the information. It ends up taking up more of our time having to manage product, chasing it down, finding where it is, why can't we have it, when can we have it, what's the replacement. It's just, honestly, I'm at the point right now with our vendors that I call VPs and owners and CEOs of companies directly and say, hey, listen, I need to know where you are. I need to know, how is your company? And here's the reason why. I got stuck into a situation, a very costly situation with a company that you all know that filed bankruptcy on 14 companies last year. Guess who got stuck holding the money? This guy. And so I want to know the well-being of these companies that we're all buying from, because we all know that everyone has been affected.
Right.
Womp womp.
It is true. It is true. That's a heavy load, but it is, what you're saying is absolutely true.
Is. I mean, and it's not just, the Destin Fourniers of the company. I mean, of the world. It's, Don Gia, it's all these, Robert Allen, it's these companies that have been, they've been hit. And it's not, when we think about High Point, there are so many mom and pops that are the High Point vendors. They depend on High Point for their whole year. And I want to be so supportive of that because I don't want to see those vendors go away. But at the same time, 2020, my word has been transparency with my staff, with my family, with my friends, with my clients, with everything. Transparency. We have to talk about where we are emotionally, mentally, physically, business-wise, so that we can know where we can plug in and support other people.
So important. And I love that you brought that up, Chad, about the mom and pops. That's usually my favorite thing about High Point is, I always come back with, never come back empty-handed, and always come back with a stack of new vendors that I've never heard of before. And that is the priceless value to me of High Point, is constantly, finding these mom and pops and supporting them. And, hopefully tons of people, are part of their journey of them continuing to come back to High Point and growing bigger and stronger. That's what I'm always excited about. And then of course the antique section, I always love a good dig, good find.
Well, and that's, I think, like, that's my favorite part of High Point as well. I love, like, being in Inner Hall, like, who's, like, just got a booth for the first time. Who have I never seen before? I love going to Market Suites the Suites at Market Square, just on my way to the Antique Center. Like, who has just blown a bucket of money to buy this booth to make their career?
Yes.
And I think about people like Dunes and Duchess, who were there like 11 years ago in a little space that's the size of my bath mat, with just their little candelabras and their little light fixtures, and they've like grown this huge business out of that. You've watched, I remember actually, Brendan, we were style spotters. It was like 3 years ago. Yeah. I remember spotting Ungala Traders.
Yes.
And she, like, her first time there, oh my God, she was so excited that I was there. Like, no one was more kind and gracious to me than she was. And now like she's a business person. She's got a brand. Yeah. And I love that I got to be a part of that. Not only as a style spotter, but as a client as well. I like those stories, those success stories that happen all the time.
Yeah, I think it's fun to ask designer friends. I mean, I was a style spotter, I think it was last year. It feels like it was forever ago, but it probably just was last year. And I got so many great new vendors just from, asking fellow designers, like Varellin, like I'd never been there. And I was like, what, how has this been here the whole time? And, it was just great. And There was one as well that I can't think of the name now, of course, but they have like a lot of French imports and then new lighting kind of over that same area. And I mean, just bought out the place. It was amazing. So there's always new discoveries. And that's, I think, what's so exciting about High Point.
You know, I think every one of us on this panel today could probably tell you at least 3 clients that paved the road for us.
Oh my
You know,
God.
we can all tell you at least 3 that from the beginning days, even till today, that there have been those clients that taught us, they shared with us, they took a chance on us, they believed in us, they laughed, they cried, they did all the stuff to make us the designers that we are today and the businesses that we have today. And so going back to what Scott said, I think it's so important, you know, to find those new vendors. And it's exciting, like, you know, to see them flourish and to know that we all had a part in helping their careers become something really great. Exciting.
Well, the best part of finding the new ones is that they haven't been knocked off yet, so it's still something special.
Yeah.
Very true.
So talk to me, one of the readers I know just sent in a question about colors. Do you feel like you're seeing a specific color coming to be more in demand, or is that just very client specific? I will say in the
It's very client specific.
there's a lot of blue. I can definitely see that in the images that were sent in and on your website. So if I was going to say there was a color that I was seeing in those images, it would be blue. But you know, that, I mean, gray was it, and I think blue will be it for a while. And I don't know what the next color, but I feel like social media has really flattened the normal timeline for a trend, because you see it so much sooner that people get tired of it. Their attention span is greatly reduced by the overexposure of a particular color. But so I would like to hear, you know, what are you seeing in terms of colors that your clients are requesting?
I mean,
I do think that it's really client specific. I will say though that recently we've been getting a lot of requests for more like a kind of pastel kind of palettes, you know, but like multiple colors sort of, you know, in the mix, but things that are happy but soft, nothing too punchy or strong. We're also actually seeing quite a lot of coral, which is kind of an interesting color that has kind of popped up. And again, this is just in our projects right now, but coral has kind of popped up, and one particular project, the client is obsessed with terrazzo. So I feel like I'm becoming obsessed with it, but yeah, I would say coral is kind of the one that's bubbling up to the top for me.
Blue is, it's just like Courtney said, it's always client specific. It's like the most elementary question to ask someone, what are your favorite colors? It's so important to know that. But sometimes clients will surprise themselves if they see a palette. They're like, oh, I kind of like that. But across all of them, blue, I've never had a client that doesn't like blue. It's just certain shades might not be for them, but every client loves blue. It's just like, I feel like in our experience, a universal soothing color. Last year, we definitely had people wanting like this like deep, gorgeous burgundy wine color. But again, and we've had in the past a very specific request for coral, just like you said, Courtney, but this client was very inspired by their childhood in Maine. So it's so client specific, but blue has always been pretty it for like an okay one to go with for all of our clients.
You know, green seems to be my go-to. It's so much in my, exactly. It's always, I mean, every shade of green except for celery in my world, you know, it tends to be there. And I actually like celery. It's just I haven't really implemented it. But what I'll say is that there's something about green that just does it for me. So much so that I've tried to pull away from it this year. The only request that we've had this year is oxblood. Funny enough, Bryn, that you said that, the burgundy wine color, but this really deep oxblood color, which I've kind of pushed to more of this persimmon color. has a little drop of blue in it to kind of throw it off from being so orangey red. And I am not like red has never been in my repertoire of design, but I'm having a lot of fun with that right now.
I just did a home cinema in a show house just recently in Virginia, and same thing, red, you know, haven't really played with that much, and we did this really deep kind of oxblood red, and I was just like obsessed. It was spectacular. It was so beautiful. And so yeah, so I always try to kind of keep an open mind, you know, and well, that's one of the fun things about show houses. You can, you know, experiment and play without much repercussions. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that there's I think those like really rich, deep colors, I think those are always, you know, in style in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Chad, I have to chime in. I actually think your background is going to be the next hot trend. Not so much color, but I think the creams and the charcoals and that camel, like you are sitting in a spot on palette.
Oh, thank you. You know, I hate to tell you this, but this has been this way for a while. So,
but I think we're seeing a lot of black and white coming back.
This is I don't think you can get this anymore, but this all started at this Clarence House, beautiful, like fabric years ago. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, I do think we're seeing a lot of black and white right now.
Yeah, I call it a giraffe color
These
palette.
walls are actually green. These walls are called green black. They're so dark green that they look black.
Oh,
Nice.
gorgeous. Is that Josie in the background?
It is. She's over there napping, living her best life.
Luxurious.
The one question that I have is, in your own life, what is one thing that you think that you would say for you is luxury from a personal standpoint, not from a client standpoint?
For me, it's a great rug. One that feels great underfoot. I love that. I think that, and a big rug that, again, back to scale, but that really like takes up the whole room. I think it's fabulous.
So I'll say really quickly, I don't know about you guys, but we just finished, we've been in our office space for 2.5 years, finished it. And because we're the cobbler's children, everyone comes first, and then we'll finally eventually get around to us. And I will tell you, luxury has been in thinking our place was fine enough. And in our last stretch of the last week, it has just been like, our rugs came in, just like you said, Erin, our rugs are in. We've never had rugs before. I only had enough money to do every other window for drapery. I finally finished it for the rest of the drapery. We got a couple new lights, and just these final touches, like the experience, I think this is exactly what we talked about from the very beginning, is having that, walking out of space and being like, oh my God, it's done. Oh, and it's so different from just little nuances. Like that has been like, so like the experience of feeling that the finished product feels luxurious. The journey to get this to this final product was the luxurious component. I don't know, but like finally having our own space that is truly finished kind of helped us feel like, the reveal is always the best part, right? It's the final reveal where everything is truly like, it's done. We do ours turnkey so they don't see all the stuff before, but like, that is luxury. Like, oh my God, wow. It just finally feels good. That's it, the feeling, I guess.
I did that for my house finally after same kind of cobbler with no shoes, leftovers from projects. And yeah, it's always, cute, but we know it's not done, or where things came from, or they don't fit right, or whatever. You're kind of like, it's fine. So in February, I got like all new rugs, new sofa, new light fixtures, did the whole thing, like just finished every room that I'd been putting off for years. And thankfully, right before then shutdown happened, I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. But yeah, it really is nice when you walk in the room and you're like, oh, I'm actually kind of good at this. This space looks good.
I keep thinking what designer I'm going to hire to do mine. That's what I keep thinking. It's like, I just really want to do it,
That's true.
Congratulations on your new office. It is stunning. It is so beautiful. You've done an amazing job. Congratulations. I'm like,
you.
It's wow. It's really, really beautiful. It really is. Luxury for me at home, and this is going to sound so simple and silly. You know, being from the South, I was raised in a family that we use cloth napkins for every meal. We just didn't use paper towels. We just didn't do it. And so I don't either. And, you know, my friends, and I have some friends that tell me I'm a little bougie, and I'm like, no, I am helping the environment because I'm not putting paper towels in the, you know, that's my shtick. But luxury for me is cloth napkins. I use them for every, whether it's breakfast, you know, a snack, no matter what. It's, to me, there's just something about cloth when you're dining that's something nice to have. So that's a little luxury for me.
Luxury, I have to say, it's you know, after working all day and especially during a pandemic, luxury for me is going home and great lighting, an incredibly comfortable chair, and a great glass of wine. And I do think that, you know, it's become very much the simple things in life where we're saying less is more, and really kind of embracing, whether it's, you know, your porcelain teacup or whatever it might be, make it the best that you can possibly make it be.
And use your stuff. Do you know what I'm saying?
Use it, yeah.
When my partner and I been together for 3 years, and when we got together, he's like, why are you using all this good stuff all the time? I'm like, you don't understand. I don't have like the bad stuff or the, like, I don't have that. That's just, I use my stuff. Because life, as someone said earlier, life is, it's like a vapor. It's here 1 second and then it's gone. And so it's important just to enjoy the things that we have, and, you know, the things that we've worked hard for. So.
Get yourself one fabulous silver spoon that you can use, you know, that you can use in your coffee in the morning, and just one at the flea market.
Right.
Yeah, I'd much rather, I'm with Chad on using the good stuff, which is, again, like, that's all we really have. And I also had an old friend of mine who's like, what happened again? I'm like, then I throw it away. I'd much rather break one of my grandmother's plates because I used it, because I touched it every day, than have the movers break it. And I wasn't even involved in it. I'm not, like, that. It's, in some ways it's just stuff. It's just, they're just nouns. But when you can start layering adjectives on top of them, that it's the china that my mom collected, I was with her when we bought all of this, like, vintage rose medallion table service. Like, I helped her buy all of it, and then now it's sitting in my kitchen, and that means so much to me, to have that connection with my family, that something I bought from Crate and Barrel is not going to do. Right. Yeah, someone asked me recently, like, what were things that I hated about people's houses, and I'm always so leery to get into that. But I'm like, oh my God, I hate white plates. Like, I need a plate with something going on it, and that's all for my mom. That's all the, Lord, there's just stacks of it in there that we just moved across the country and unpacked.
I also find it to be a great luxury to be surrounded in my own home by, you know, things I've collected over the years. And, you know, you look over at, you know, a plate or something, and there's a story behind it. There's an emotion, there's a feeling, there's a memory. And I think, you know, having spent so much time home, you know, this year, those feelings were so important, you know, to my emotional and mental health as well, you know, and so I think that, you know, I try to encourage people, like what you guys have all said, you know, to really to pull out the emotionally important things. You know, don't feel like you have to, quote unquote, protect them by keeping them in a box in a closet, and you never actually get to experience them in your life. So, you know, I've discovered for myself this year that it's just those little memories tied to things that, you know, create your story and your history. And I find that just to be such a fantastic luxury.
Well, one thing that I would say with Chad and what Chad and Scott said is, I'm a believer in antiques. You know, I think it's the ultimate green thing. You know, you have a chance to use something that everyone else doesn't have, and it has a story usually that, you know, just because your grandmother used a sideboard in her dining room doesn't mean you have to use it in your dining room. And I think that's something that, you know, I feel very committed to bringing an education of antiques through the magazine, which segues to our final question is, where are you getting your inspiration? I mean, obviously, Southern Home is a very luxury-oriented publication. We have Instagram, we have Pinterest. You know, are you still going back to the printed? Or are you like, you know, I'm a devoted Instagram person. I'm hoping that you still go back to the printed material personally. But, you know, I'd like to hear from you. Where are you getting your inspiration?
I think to your point about luxury, there's something so luxurious about holding a magazine.
Yes.
It's visual, it's tactile. And then of course, you know, you find those magazines. I have magazines in a stack that I've had since the early 1990s of houses, of a friend's house in London that I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I've got to keep this.
That looks like that right here.
Yeah. And like, there's the magazines that are kind of sitting in a pile, like maybe waiting to get recycled. And then there's the magazines that are in a stack because they're getting saved, because that's where David Lindley's apartment from London from 1993 is. And I know what the cover looks like, and I know exactly what page it's on. So there's something really magical about printed design that I don't think, I mean, Instagram's amazing. It is a little bit like getting inspiration from a fire hose because you just get overwhelmed by it. And you can control that magazine. You can control how you flip the pages and how things are dog-eared. So I can't imagine a world where there are not magazines and design books. And that is an amazing luxury in my life.
I totally agree with you. When I'm in the design process, it all starts from what's swimming around in my head. You know, the pencil, I still draw. I hand draw quite a bit. And so when the pencil's meeting the paper, that's when it all starts. And when I get into that on a project, when I get into that design space, I remove myself from like social, like I don't look at stuff, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to be influenced. I don't want to be, I don't want my decisions to be swayed. So I kind of go on lockdown for a minute, and it never fails. You know, I design something that I think I designed, and then guess what? There it is, you know. Design is simple, and there's no such thing as an original. It's all the Louis, every Louis changed their furniture, right? So I feel that you're exactly right. Magazines, the print is so important to what we do. And I have a stack right next to me. There's always a stack next to my bed. I'm always looking through that stuff when I'm not in the design moment.
Yeah, and I really, you know, I love that social media has given, you know, individual artists and designers, you know, the power of a platform to gain exposure that they maybe wouldn't have had in the past. And I think that's fantastic. But on the flip side, I really I hate how quickly trends come. You know, you'll see something and you think it's so cool, you know, you're like, oh, I haven't seen that for a while. And 2 months later, you're just sick of it because you've just seen it absolutely everywhere. And so, yeah, I think that's something I don't like about the social media. And, you know, to Scott's point, I think with magazines, it gives you a little bit of time to breathe with ideas and to, you know, really absorb them and not just, you know, have something pushed to the side so quickly. Yeah.
I think real quickly, just to say that real quick, I do think that as designers, we all have to be much more mindful of what we're putting out there. If, like you said, if you don't want someone else being influenced by it, or if you don't want someone kind of being inspired and then taking your design and doing whatever with it. I mean, I have some really beautiful work that I've done that no one will ever see. And the only reason why is because I'm saving that little moment for later on, you know? So I think we all have to be very mindful about what we're putting out for everyone else to feast their eyes on.
Totally. And, you know, there is I think there's a way to marry the two in terms of the tactile, hands-on stuff. Like literally when we were doing our final clean out for the office, someone almost got rid of my stacks and they're like, oh, these are so old. I'm like, Exactly. They are like my babies. Do not throw away that 2017 Miranda, you know, Patina Farm is on the outside, you know. So those, I think there's a way to marry the two. So like, I don't know about you guys, but during COVID, we've kind of gone a step extra with our technology and utilizing iPads a lot more. It has made this forced us to go a little bit more paperless, and we're able to mark up things much quicker. But I don't know if anyone uses like we use Microsoft Teams, which is a chat situation. And we also will use Pinterest, of course, to internally organize and do subfolders for all of our clients so we can, you know, have our pin boards there. So what's great with our phones is if I see something in a physical magazine, I'll take a picture of it and then I'll just connect it right to and put it right on that Pinterest board. So I think there is a way to live in the new age of technology of the now, to still have both. And it's so important. It can't ever go away. It can't, because like for us, especially, look around us, like books and like literally my like stacks of magazines are always going to be around, and we're always going to put them in our clients' homes, maybe not stacks of magazines, but books. And so it just is never going to go away.
I really hope my staff is not watching right now, because we're on Teams as well, and they are doing Pinterest, like just everything, and they are trying to get this old dog on with this new trick. And I can't do it. I can't do it. Can't do it. Let the kids do it. Y'all go ahead. Your Andy over here is gonna keep doing, you know, things like the wheel and the hamster in the wheel.
Think about it this way: our clients hire us because we have a skill that they don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And Chad, that's the same. There's a skill that you need that you don't have, and you can hire it out. That's that's the circle of life, Simba. That's how the economy runs.
That's right.
Good for you. Just know where your weaknesses are and hire them out to people who who excel at them. You don't need someone who's good at being you, because we have you to be you.
That is right.
Damn it.
I think, Lynn, to your point, I think that our industry, you know, we've talked for an hour now about our industry and the challenges that we've been facing, but I think that the print and the magazine industry has been facing its own set of challenges. And, you know, I think we can use all these tools for our work, but there's still nothing like sitting, you know, in a comfortable chair at the end of the day. I mean, heck, we've lost newspapers. You know, the day of having a cup of coffee and drinking your newspaper is gone. And I do miss those days. I hope we never get rid of the days of, you know, sitting comfortably where we're not rushed and working on a project and really enjoying and embracing that print. So thank you for what you do, because you bring a beautiful service to our industry.
Absolutely.
That 100%.
Well, I want to thank you all. Lynn had some technical difficulties on her end, and so it's been wonderful having you each with us today. Just looking at High Point Market starts tomorrow, where would be your an exhibitor that you would recommend people to go and visit, where you have found something, you know, to redefine your luxury at market? I know, loaded question.
Well, like
The point I made earlier: go to find someone who's there for the first time. Go to market squares, go to Inner Hall, find someone who is just launching their business, and see what they might have that may fit into some of your client work, so that you can A, support them as a business person, and then B, like bring something completely original to your client who has not seen it in a magazine yet, because they just made them. They're probably got the paint's probably drying right now because they're getting ready to launch tomorrow. And find those people if you can, and that's two places where they tend to live a lot.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, honestly. One of our favorites we always love to see is actually Alfonso Marina, but we were just told they're not going to be there for this market. So sad, but
And they have beautiful stuff.
What's that?
They have beautiful stuff.
Oh my gosh, it's
And they're such nice people.
so nice, so wonderful. So I would definitely say wander the halls of, I always mix up their names. It's the Suites at Market Square, right?
Right.
And I get lost.
IHFC.
Up in there, and so that's kind of the fun part is you just get lost, and then you just like, oh, what is this new place? I think I found like Asian Loft last year in there that has all these like amazing like marble vases and just, you know, just really interesting things. But what's the other? I mean, Inner Hall, of course, is for all the newbies. Am I missing one more location?
I mean, there's also just so many great vendors all around on the streets, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and then there's, modern, 21, why am I
Modern history?
There's the vintage store, like, just like Erin was saying, just like on the peripheral. Oh,
it's over by the river tracks, that one? Called?
Old,
World Imports?
no, it's Old Goodies or Good something.
Old good things.
Golden Oldies or something like that.
There's a Golden and a Blue Ocean Traders.
Right.
they're great.
One of the places that I always go is you have to go and visit all of our friends at Curry and Company. I'm not sure if they're showing this time, but you know, everyone there to see what 200 new pieces or 300 new pieces they're showing, and grab a cocktail and a little nosh, and you know.
That's the best thing about Curry is they have, I swear to God, no one will fight me on this. Curry has the best food.
Absolutely.
They do.
And you need a little snack to swing into Curry, and they will have something. They will have crafted something spectacular for you to nosh on.
Yeah.
It's such a great place to. It's a place to meet up too.
Okay, I found it. It's 214 Modern Vintage.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. 214. Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And you know, the steel building has come a long way over the last couple of years. The steel building is completely transformed.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you, and thank you for your recommendations. If you are joining us, we welcome you to join us on site if you can to High Point Market, starting tomorrow through next week. And thank you to each of our designers who took their time today, and also to Southern Home Magazine for also being our partner in this. We wish you a great afternoon and stay safe. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.